I had to put this on the agenda because it's time sensitive. If you remember way back, Jonathan, Lee, please, come on. Jonathan at the Invitational said to us, let's get involved with this company called HoodQ. I got really involved with HoodQ to the point where I'm kind of being a consultant, and I'm now, we've evolved it to a new product. A new product that's now called SchoolQ. And this was an evolution of me working with them, firstly to get a discount for Star Group. Who's using HoodQ? Because it's one of my powerful tools, right? Okay, HoodQ is it basically gives you the schools for all of your listings and anything you're doing in marketing.
I think it's $10 a month.
Yeah, but that's the Star Group.
Yeah.
It's evolved. There's like David, it's on. I just turned this off because I didn't want.
I'm sorry.
I didn't want that to interfere with the presentation.
HOOD.
So essentially, with multiple consultations with various people in the industry, and these guys at HoodQ have some major players on their board. One of them is the guy that just sold Lone Wolf, and Lone Wolf bought everything. Basically, but he's now sort of sold out. He's only got a small interest in it. But really powerful people, Google, all of the advertising market has been really an amazing ride. I put them together with Addo of Agent Locator because we needed somebody to provide the data of the schools. And so they've evolved HoodQ into what we call SchoolQ. And the principle was raised by a number of people from a business point of view. It's a lot easier to sell a big package to smart, successful realtors than to market the Minnie Mouse package to thousands of realtors, because most of them don't get it. Only the top 5% will get what the program is. So SchoolQ, and I'm going to give you this presentation that I made like in 5 minutes, but it's based on the principle. I'm going to give you a quick demo. And the reason I'm raising this is you can all have first right of refusal for your neighborhood if you want it. That was my commitment that I got from him, and I've got a bunch of my buddies who were going to give them first right of refusal because it's the only fair thing. What's that?
It works even in areas where HoodQ doesn't?
HoodQ works everywhere, but it's based on markets. So at that conversation he had with you, it didn't make sense for him and whoever else to market it because there were so few people. But if you buy the area now, but it's going to cost money. And I'll just run through the presentation, accelerate it because we've got lots of time. And so where's Gord? I was asked by my partners to have it for London.
Yeah.
So I said, I'm going to talk to Gord first, because if you want it, of course it'll come with a condition that you have to move to KW, but that's another conversation.
Isn't that called moral suasion or blackmail?
Yeah. So we're calling it a SchoolQ presentation, and essentially it's a new lead generation asset for your arsenal. So this is another lead generation tool.
Dan, will you be sending
this presentation? No, because this is just a mock-up, right? But I will, if you're interested, you'll send me an email and say, hey, I'm interested.
It's being recorded.
It's going to be Toronto first, because they're building this out. There's 140 neighborhoods in Toronto ready to go tomorrow. I have the pilot in my neighborhood because it was one that we used because of the strength of the schools in that neighborhood. It was a pilot developed on that. But they're all ready to roll. The thing is up and running. There's some little, typically with technology, there's always version 1.1 or 1.1. You just look at Apple, every week they've got something else. And then they'll be building it out GTA, but I had a request for London, and if I have a request for Collingwood, I have a little bit of clout to accelerate that, whatever. So, but let me just run through this quickly. So basically, it's an asset, and it's essentially receiving by demand, because they are going to create the demand for people looking for schools. And then they marry it together with realtors and lenders. So according to NAR, proximity to good quality schools is one of the most influencing factors in people looking to move. And of course, that's not in all neighborhoods, because if you're in distinctly downtown urban, where there's only one-bedroom apartments, it's not going to apply as much as it would be in the burbs. But for the most part, NAR has measured it to be 20 to 25% of all buyers look at schools first. And then you just think of your own markets and decide, I know that in my community, it's the #1 thing that pushed the prices up in the last 3 years. because we've got one of the best high schools in the neighborhood. Okay, so how would you like to generate more leads? And I'm just running through this. Close more deals, be perceived as the neighborhood expert. Oops. Keep going. Promote and maintain your brand. Beat out your competition. A lot of this, and a lot of the players we've spoken to, and there have only been about 5 of them, this is the key thing. We've approached a couple of top realtors in the neighborhoods that they work at, and the biggest response was, can I have more than one neighborhood? I work in A, B, C, D. Will you give me a discount if I buy 4 of them? And that is being considered.
And how do you define a neighborhood?
All by data. These guys own all of the data. And let me give you the credibility. I think you've heard about Keller Williams moving to being a technology company. Gary Keller just changed the CEO and became CEO, whatever you want to call him, president again, because of the technology rush that's on. And that's a whole discussion. We started talking about it with Zillow and Redfin and Fin and all of those guys, Open Door and Closed Door, whatever you want to call them. That's another conversation.
AI is the big part
But,
that they're
yeah,
moving
but
towards.
the bottom line is that it's all about big data. And in Canada, we at KW have always been second-class citizens. We never got anything. And so when they came and they said they're developing this whole big thing, Kelly, we said, yeah, sure. But they hired a top guy, the guy who actually founded Feltour way back. His name is Gilles. And I got together with Gilles and I said, Gilles, where are you going to get this data from in Canada? And it was like blank stare. Let me introduce you to somebody. So confidentially, it's still being I's dotted and T's crossed. Keller Williams is buying the data from these guys. They categorically have the best data in Canada. And they've been assembling it for a long time.
Does HoodQ own SchoolQ?
Yes, it's the same thing. It's just a branding thing. Yeah.
Okay.
HoodQ is the company and SchoolQ is the net. So there's like tiers of, you guys have the middle tier, right? Where you can, for the $10 a month we're paying, I mean, I have the same thing, right? Is we can do an address for every listing.
They never
Okay,
said
but
that.
we,
Okay.
So anyway, HoodQ is now, you buy a neighborhood. So it's for people who farm or geo-farm or whatever, that's what you do. So basically, we're introducing Find Your Home by School District. So they will be doing the pay-per-click, the Google Juice. When people go looking for schools, they look for the schools and they say, you wanted to buy a school? Here's your realtor, here's your mortgage broker. And that's what you buy. And they will generate the leads for you. So this is, I'm still waiting for the SchoolQ logo and things. So what is SchoolQ? It's your personal neighborhood school-driven dynamic website. So in other words, it's people looking for schools in neighborhoods. And when they find the schools and this thing, and I'm going to give you the demo, it manipulates. So SchoolQ is operated by HoodQ, which is that question. And they have the largest database of schools and neighborhood data in Canada. And it's up to date and it's continually be updated. So for example, you're going to see when you click on the map of the school map comes up. The minute the school makes a change, it's kind of instant, they make the change as well. And of course there's a disclaimer, because as some of you know who work in the Toronto area, you could have a school district, and it's a French immersion school district. The English attendees is different from the French catchment. Usually the French catchment is larger. Do you know what I mean? When you have school boundaries, there's an English version and a French version, and they seem to change it arbitrarily. Because like you can be on one street, and from numbers 3 to 65, it's English, and then from 3 to 372, it's French, and then next month, it's 370. So there's always going to be that, you still need to check with the school, but it gives you the basic concept. So let me now get into the site here, hopefully if the internet's going to work for us. So this is the pilot. This is for Bathurst Manor. So if you're searching for homes in Bathurst Manor, this is what the site looks like. And the site's going to look the same. I'm going to sit down now so that I can kind of give you a demo. No matter what your neighborhood, this is what it looks like.
Xander, the neighborhood name's going to be similar to what Treb, as example, is using as a neighborhood?
Yes, in the Toronto, yes and no. It's like, because it's really based on data, and sometimes this is a challenge because sometimes the TREB data or the way the neighborhood is assimilated doesn't match the school districts. So you could be in, let's say, CO4, whatever,
And there's a crossover.
Danbury, and then
Yeah.
like it's half of this and so they have all the data and they go over that with you depending on the neighborhood that you farm. Similarly, when you actually geo-farm, up until now, we've only had the Canada Postal Works.
FSA.
So FSA, so I can have an FSA and I want it to stop, let's say, at Yonge Street, but unfortunately it's got 3 letter carriers that kind of go into there and another 500 homes. It's not really my area.
Yeah.
So these guys have a better handle on the data because they've not only got postal, they've got the actual geo warehouse, and they're actually talking. Geo warehouse is one of the partners. And the other thing I should mention is that this is linked to the school reports. Now we all know of Fraser, right?
Fraser Institute.
Fraser Institute, they get the data from the same people, same place these guys get. So they have better than Fraser, but they won't be calling it the Fraser report because they've just got the raw data of this, the EQA or whatever they call them. That's how the data and the school rankings are determined. It's all a question of big data. So basically, if I want to find the Bathurst Manor schools, I just click on this over here, and it brings up the map. And I can check off, so you can see there's public schools. If I want to put in the Catholic schools, I just click on it, and then it populates where the Catholic schools are. If I want to bring in, like let's say, I only want those scores over 8. All right? You click on that, you're going to see there's only 1, right? And that's the highest ranked school in my neighborhood, and that's why we use this. This was my argument for using this as a pilot.
What about a lot of them I know on Fraser, they don't have scores?
No, they're all there. They just won't be ranked.
So if they put in the ranking number, they won't see anything?
Well, exactly.
If
But
there's none of the
that's
schools that are
yeah.
ranked
But
in that
most
area.
people, it's defaults on N always, right?
Okay.
Now, if you click on the school, right, it automatically populates the neighborhood. That's the capture area for that particular school.
That's amazing.
So you as a person looking at schools now, and you can blow this up.
That'd be so cool.
So you know where the neighborhood is, so you can say, okay, these are the streets I want to be on. But that's just for searching for the schools. So here is school news, and they have not just,
So this is public, right? Like once this goes live, anybody can use this. Is that right?
no,
No.
you can, you will be buying it by area. You will be-
I'm saying.
But the public.
Yes,
public.
oh, absolutely. From the public point of view, they are using SEO and pay-per-click to drive the
Because I
public.
always find it really annoying to try to find a school catchment when a client wants to know what's the school catchment for this school
Yeah.
specifically in this area.
Yeah, so you
That'll
can send them
really
to your
help.
site and they can kind of go
Yeah,
wherever.
wow.
Now, there's lots of little nuances and stuff still to be worked out, but the system is being tested up the yin yang. Because I've been working on this since the beginning of December with them. So that's why I'm a little bit frazzled, because I got all these projects going on, plus my construction co as well, which is now quiet, fortunately. So if you want to read the guide, here is basically the Bathurst Manor School Guide. And there's another thing where you talk about school news, and it gives you basically all about the schools. You know, finding the right school for your family, and it's all related locally to the neighborhood. So they've collected all of this data per neighborhood. Then you've got homes and schools. Find your dream home in Bathurst Manor. So these are my words, because I wrote them, because I know I'm the so-called neighborhood expert. And then here you go and you search for your school. So there's Bathurst Manor, right? And now all I have to do is click on here again. I want the Catholic schools, for example. It populates the Catholic school.
What are the black dots? Those are homes?
Those are homes.
Okay.
So it's now drawing in all the listing information. So all the homes available. So if I had chosen, for example, the first map, I'm sorry here that I'm not getting this to move here. This is where the high school is. So I see, okay, $1 million, click on it. Up comes the listing. And if you want more information, well, it comes to you as the realtor. right? That's the whole thing, we're generating leads.
You know what? There's nothing out there currently that offers this service.
Of
It's
course
gonna
not.
be huge.
No, this is the whole thing.
Wow.
And so, all right, so I'm just giving you the quick, so now it's the buy and sell. So here are some insights, then the data is picked up as to, you know, total households, average price, all that baloney, which is meaningless. But buying a home, you can see homes for sale, you can sign up, it's typically, so let's go see homes for sale. And here they are, and you'll notice right at the bottom, because this is the rule, besides from all the calculators, just want to get over here, is that it has to be agent locator who provides the data. But on all of the other listing, it's going to be my name. It's the typical mumbo jumbo that we have to do legally. And then if you click on all of the properties, it's the same scenario. You want to view the listing. It'll show you the ones that are on the IDX. But if you want anything that's on the VOW, then of course they've got to sign in, because that's the Toronto Real Estate. And who do they sign in? It's with me. Because my name and all of the TREB data by TREB rules has to be linked through a realtor. So this one is linked through me, or whoever owns this. You can still ask for the school report, right? Send me a free school report, which is the Hood Cube. And let's go back.
But that's
to-
only after they only get that information if what?
No, they can get it anyway, but it's sent out with your stuff on it, your branding.
Oh, because you have that area.
You own the area.
And what if they start searching in your property area?
Well, obviously, I mean, if they
Look,
search,
we're all-
anything that they search through your neighborhood is gonna come back as branded as you, but those are the fine tuning, and there's all sorts of geocoding to
So they keep
prevent that.
moving further and further away to get to that next.
Yes. Well, that's what I'm not sure of, but we're working on it. So I had asked David, but David couldn't get his stuff to us in time, so I went with Danielle, just because we needed to put a face in here and some stuff. So this is kind of my realtor profile, blah, 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 about me, testimonials. That's how they've set it up. So we're associated with the site, but it's all interlinked.
It'd be good
So-
if they could see my reviews on Google. So that would be even better.
I think that those things will evolve at this point, because not everybody has them, like I don't have them.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, these are the things that, in terms of customization, we
Right.
haven't spoken about. And I'm meeting with some really top people next week. A fellow by the name of Peter Mulholland.
I know him.
Peter was,
He was a KW.
yeah, but before that, Peter was way ahead of his time. Peter was the first realtor on internet in the country. He actually, before anybody even knew about the internet, he bought URLs for every single neighborhood in Toronto. You had one? 15, that's maybe, no, it's longer than that, it's 20 years. Right at the beginning of the internet, and he was selling these neighborhoods, and you bought them, and I had him, he wouldn't accept me because I wasn't enough of a lister, but I was a friend of his. So I brought on Elise Callis and Barry Coe, you know, people like that who bought into the system, but he was so far ahead of his time. I mean, if he did that 5 years ago, he'd have been a zillionaire. But it kind of got phased out of it. So I'm meeting with him. He still carries the scars of those days, just to get some insight from him. I've already had meetings with Michael Callis on concept, because from a brokerage point of view, he's got deep pockets, and he was saying, well, can I just buy this for my brokerage, right? That as soon as he got the concept, but he hasn't even seen the working data yet.
Have they defined the regions yet? Are they defined
Yes,
so that
yes,
we
they
can?
have.
And how do we
140 in Toronto, and then the GTA is being expanded.
and how do we see, like, where do we see that?
If you're interested and you send me an email and you say you're in. So now let me tell you the price. It's going to be at this point $500 a month. And if you think about that in terms of lead generation, it's probably competitive with most of the other big lead generation sites. And the first question I got from one of the WISE agents was, so what's the conversion rate? I said, well, I have no idea. And if you asked me what's the conversion rate on my agent locator versus my web tech design versus my weather, it's entirely up to you. How good are you at converting the leads? We know the leads are going to be there, and you buy it for a year. If you don't like it, you don't renew it.
It's a 1 year commitment.
Yep. And I don't know if yet I can get a discount for Star. I'm gonna try to do that. Not
The
sure.
motivating.
Silly,
Yeah,
of course you will.
because it depends on probably the neighborhood and the demand, right? So that's it. So I don't want to take too much of the time of the meeting, but it is time sensitive because people are going to start grabbing them. So if anybody has an interest, you email me with your neighborhood right away. And for the out-of-towners, the same thing. It's going to grow across the country. They have every single 80,000 school that exists in Canada on the system. They have all of the data that's available through Geo Warehouse and anywhere. And they've assembled, they're curators of all sorts of data.
They're not dropping Hood Cube though.
No.
So in 26 years of doing real estate, I have never, in my area, had any request for information on schools.
You haven't?
No, never have.
Wow.
I mean, there are, in Norfolk County, there are 5 high schools.
I would think any
There
young
are like
generation.
maybe 6 or 7 or 8
So you-
public schools.
So you're thinking they already have the realtor before they get to this point?
Well, I've never had anyone email me, look for information on schools, anything like that at all.
We're talking about very different demographics.
Yeah.
This is probably only one school. There's no option, right?
There's a Catholic school, high school, and a public
Yeah.
high school in Simcoe.
So
Yeah.
obviously,
Not in Port Noble.
There's
so,
no question needed.
so the question is for those communities, and they have teared this down. They've broken the country up into where it's probably not going to work.
Right.
So the neighborhoods that we're counting are the ones where they have the data where it could work.
Well, I get it in
But
Toronto,
I bounced this
Hamilton,
off
and all that.
Chuck in a very brief conversation, and he also poo-pooed. He says, well, Milton, he says, they don't really choose the neighborhood on schools because
They're all good?
no, that's what they have. But I haven't shown him this. He's going to be on my list. I'm going to give him the demo online, more to get his feedback
Oh, there's
because it's very
lots.
important. If a guy, but I can tell you that Chuck may not like it, but I can guarantee you there's 4 or 5 others in the market who's trying to take share from Chuck are going to grab it.
Sure.
Because it's just another conduit to bring in leads. So the question is, what's the payback? Like, what is your cost per lead? Do you guys know what your cost per leads are? Because mine have gone up exponentially to the point where,
Stupid.
would I pay for $50 for a lead? Yeah, I mean, that's what the cost is. When I was doing Google pay-per-click myself, in some of the neighborhoods, they're up to $13 a click. And most of those are nonsense. So that's why I handed it over to Agent Locator, who brought that price down. And it's still kind of high based on the conversion rate. And I believe these will be better qualified. But do I know? Absolutely not. Is it worth my test for the year? Yep, it's worth it.
All you need to do is massage your advocates. That's it.
I was gonna say,
That's what Joe
if you
said.
truly work by repeat and
Yeah.
referral, your cost is 0.
So,
Yep.
but not
It's the cost
everybody
of the
works by
advocate.
repeat and referral.
We're gonna talk about that, because I know we keep saying it. I think if you've checked out your history and you've done your numbers for the last 5 years, and that's true for you, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But then there's that 1 year. That's why Joe brought in Terry Anafil and Dean, because it's a dial that you turn up or you turn down. I've had to turn it up and I've had to turn it
But
down.
this you can't turn up or down.
No.
No, you're turning it, it's up
What,
for a year.
what I'm saying is your before
Yeah.
unit.
Yep.
If this is what you're going to use, if this is a good fit for you,
Right.
for your before unit, if you wanna own more of your area, like if you wanna pile this on to something else you're doing in that neighborhood, it might make sense to you. Remember, this is your before unit. Nobody's taking away anything from your advocates and your
It's a
VRO.
farming
That's what we're
tool.
all about.
With
This
farming,
is,
yeah. It's a farming tool.
it is a farming tool,
Farming.
yeah. So I look at my before unit, my during unit, my after unit.
Yeah.
Where did everybody come from? Nobody can speak to that if you haven't done your numbers for the last 5 years and looked at your actual percentages. So we were gonna add that in, we haven't had time to, but I think that's our homework for our next meetings, and we've gotta put it on there. What are your numbers? So let's talk to that. What did you get from all of your units last year? Who did give you the most referrals? Who should be on your advocate list and who should be kicked off? Sorry, I went off on a little rant, but we keep getting that. I tend to do it.
So I want to just add to that.
Yeah.
Because I've only ever had one personal meeting conversation with Gary Kellum. And it was about by referral and Joe Stump. And he said, yeah, he agrees. but you should be by referral first. I went out that night and I bought the domain by referral first. Yes, absolutely. But why did Joe come up with, to your point of before, why did Dean come up with it? Why did Dean invent the whole, let's get leads from somewhere? So, yes, you can have 80% from your, whatever, your existing, but there's that other 20%, and let me tell you, if you turn that on, and those 20% then become your advocates and what have you, that's how you're building, your business grows. Because,
Yeah, I
and
guess
Joe
I'm
agreed
in a
with me
different
on this, when it was raised at the Invitational, that unfortunately, people expire and die and change, or as in my case, I am now up to 9 of my former clients became realtors.
Yeah, see?
So,
Or
Yeah,
a relative
that
or a friend.
so
In
there
my
is
office.
some
The other
attrition.
thing is the amount of time and money, like 500 here and how much for
Oh,
agent locator and how much,
Yeah.
you know, so people are dropping $500 to $1,000 a month on lead generation to try and grab something out there.
Only if it works. Remember, you gotta do your, you
You gotta
gotta
do your
test it
numbers.
afterwards.
And
What did
then
I
how
get
much time
from
you
this?
invest.
Just a few more things.
But
Just,
can you
I'm just run
imagine
through
if you
this
spent
quick.
$1,000 on your
One
client
sitting in the
database in the same number of hours, what your results would be?
Yeah, I can, because I do.
So the thing is, it's not for everybody, it's the same thing as lead gen, but I can tell you the teams are spending thousands,
Oh,
not
of
hundreds a
And
month.
I think it's
Like,
different,
they have
different
to.
They have,
markets.
exactly.
They have to,
Yeah.
Because
Like
I gotta
Toronto, it's a
step.
whole different.
Okay, so just gonna run through this quickly, and then summary by show of hands, is anybody interested? So I should be, board is interested.
I'm always
Yeah.
interested. I like
Board's
trying.
interested.
Does it show buses,
I love
or you have
it.
to walk? Does it show that?
Oh, I use it.
Buses.
Yeah,
have
so
to
if
school
you're gonna get
buses?
bus, yeah, you're gonna
I
get school
don't know,
bus
that's a
or
good
walk.
question, I have no idea, because it's more relevant in those communities.
That's
but-
good input.
Yeah. Anyway, agents can select from a list of neighborhoods. Neighborhood selection is based on first come, first serve. That's why I rushed to get this to you guys. School Q charges agents based on an index fee structure, and it's based on how many households there are in the.
So it may not be 500 then.
What's that?
So it may not be 500 per
I
served
will be
area.
500 in any of the areas
So
you
if you
work
pay
versus
for
population.
school queue, do you automatically get click queue?
Yes, absolutely. You get all sorts of
So
other
then they would
stuff,
have
yeah.
to do your area.
Yeah. Cost to licenses, the right is based on a school Q index score and pricing. So it's all just based on numbers. I mean, if you're in a very intense
Does
neighborhood.
it cost
you
them
have-
more money to Google juice it up to do that?
Whatever,
neighborhood?
yeah, and
that
they've
makes
got
sense.
pretty smart people working
Makes
on that.
sense.
And they're really smart enough to realize when, like I said, no, I think you should go in this, they are really open and they're consulting with they put a lot of money into this thing, so.
So Suzanne, just quickly, if we're in an area where I say in my situation, I haven't had those kind of requests, but there also aren't many schools, there aren't many, like, so the indexing, pricing flexibility, how reasonable might
Oh,
it be?
of course, that's it, but they're not ready for you yet.
Yes.
They're going with the volume, right?
Yes.
And then I can always say, okay, put David Putty on the list, and as they move around, then they'll put you on the list.
See, I'd be interested in being on the
But
list.
London,
at a
I
reasonable
was,
price.
my partners made a request because we're starting to grow our London office. They said, hey, what about London? They want to give it to A, B, and C. They've already identified the people. So well, I got to talk to Gord first, but it's going to be a tough one, Gord. So better get those papers ready.
Okay.
Just, do they have a brokerage pricing program? Because like in some of the smaller communities,
Right on.
instead of charging me $500 and I
Yeah,
only have one high school in the neighborhood.
The preference is they want it to be personal, they want it to be, because remember, this is still working on the branding, they want it to be about you. No,
And then he
but
gets the
some,
lead.
but
But in
some,
small markets, it just doesn't work.
well, that's the thing. So it may very well be that the brokerage takes it, but then who's gonna get the benefit of it, right?
They can have a brokerage program. I mean, if you charge a brokerage, but then within that.
Well, we're testing that next week because like I say, like the Callis, for example, and please keep this amongst ourselves, he can say, well, I'd like to buy it for A, B, C, D, and because, but then again, that brokerage was, I don't know, it was like the number king of CO4 and C12, like they were in the old days. Nobody could, now things have changed. There's so many, fragmented, I mean, everything's changing.
Is the, do you know if the data is compiled by a school board or school, by the school district itself?
They get the data from everywhere and it's cross-referenced. So I don't know exactly the source of the data, because It's just too much
So
in my
like,
head.
where I am, like where, like the Cobra was only, like again, like one high school,
Yeah.
two high schools.
All the boards,
But
yeah.
the Northumberland County, which is the school board,
Yeah.
would be like a
Oh,
number of small communities.
definitely,
Bunch
the
of-
school board is the
Which may make more
main,
sense.
well, if you have to, because anything that's public, they have access to. But then they have ways of cross-referencing. Okay, so that's basically it. I don't want to take any more time. I just felt that I owed it to us that we have a first right of refusal if you're interested. So if you are, let me know ASAP. That's it. Okay, let's move to the next thing. Thank you.
Sorry, one small thing. If you
Yeah.
accidentally forget your phone at home for whatever reason, you're good to go.
Are you getting
Because
commission?
I forgot my thing at home, I want it at home.
And sorry, with mine and Michelle's contract,
Yeah.
I've actually already paid her 31% in 6 months.
Wow.
Wow, that's a
There you
lot.
go.
Boy, she got a really
So
nasty
lucky.
contract, huh?
What's that?
She's probably upset now.
No. There's a bonus structure.
She's happy. She's thought
You
of
not seen her on
everything.
She's not here.
Yeah, Dan, we have to relook at what our,
Yeah, we're not
We
gonna
piled
get
too
into
much in.
Trello.
we'll do
This
Trello
is-
next time.
This is
Yeah.
kind of what my
We gotta
Trello
put it on
board
the
is
Trello
starting to
board.
look like.
Trello what?
Anytime
We're not
there's a
doing Trello
listing
now.
Oh.
prospect, but we will, this is just to keep you guys active in Trello so that you keep coming back to it. Yeah, I got that from Ed.
I'm just on
Ed,
to-do list
you
right
see
No, you
Ed's.
got it from me first.
Oh, well, you see Ed's? I learned
Hey,
that.
I taught Ed.
If you want this
Okay,
special
Laura
sticker,
claims.
you gotta pay.
I actually had the pictures and those fancy labels before. so-
But hang on a minute.
Chuck do Trello.
Do you have to pay for the paid version to get photos, or you?
No, no.
No.
But,
But
you,
I
but if you
did-
want those stickers, you have to pay.
No,
No,
Oh, stickers
oh,
are free
if
too.
you want customized.
if you want
stickers,
custom
But
stickers.
to pay,
I have
guys, it's
custom.
$4
It's
a month.
$4.
Come on,
Oh.
get over it.
Oh, okay.
This is
I
one of
don't
those
even
things
know.
that's really worth it.
Oh,
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
gonna try
I had 3 free months and then I didn't even bother anymore, I just paid it. That's all I need, I don't need the fancier version than
But
this.
what did you get other than customized stickers for it?
No, I've got the, I've got 3 of what are those, what do they call those
Power-ups.
things?
Power-ups.
Power-ups. And I need them because it basically, I can track their all the leads' phone numbers and emails, there's fields for me to put that in, that's worth the weight of gold in there. And also the calendar, so I can
The
keep track.
calendar's great.
Calendar, but now if you don't mind only having 1 power-up per, you can manage easily. But between the stickers and the power-ups, and then there's other power-ups that I'm gonna need very soon, depending on how quickly everybody else gets their API together, which is to use Zapier. Yeah, so if you want to have that, so as soon as you need more than 2 power-ups, bingo, you have to go. Power-ups are connections.
Dropbox is
From-
one,
from-
right?
and drop- yeah, so
Yeah,
there's-
I couldn't live
There's,
without
there's so many other things, and I'm not even using Dropbox for it, because then I'm gonna have to pay too much for Dropbox, so I kind of jiggle it around.
That's worth it.
How much you pay for
Oh my
Dropbox?
God.
Pay
it's so worth
100
it.
and something a year, but it is worth it.
It's so worth it,
How
I
much-
can't
it's
even live
totally
without
worth
it,
it. How
$100
much-
a year.
120.
Yeah.
109.
So again, this is how you juggle, how, where you're spending that 50, 100, yeah, before you know it, it's like 600 a month
I
you're
have
paying.
39,000 files in Dropbox.
Yeah, I can't even.
For
count.
$100 a
Okay,
year.
you're gonna give us a lesson on that.
I would love to start a do group Trello
I'm in.
people, so yeah, I want definitely,
Learn more.
Okay,
We need,
So
I think we can have a
That would be
whole
a smart
February
thing.
meeting on
That's a
Trello.
great.
I agree.
And Open House Pro.
Yeah.
that's if you do open house.
Open
That's
home
been-
Okay,
Yeah,
so-
it's been 10
Okay, so now it's Laura, you wanna come hook up?
yeah, sure.
3 hours, I get way there.
So, what do you want HDMI?
I don't mean to be rude, but